Welcome to Timekeeping. This show will attempt to chronicle year-by-year changes to Disneyland Paris, from the excitement of a new ride opening to the minutiae of a store changing names. Join us as we celebrate 30 years of the resort. Quote, "Since they are outside the park, I didn't want either a global or realistic theme for the hotels," said Michael Eisner. "I wanted to aesthetically separate the inside of the park from the outside in such a way that the park would be the jewel at the center of a magnificent vacation resort." Disney Village and the Disneyland Resort hotels are more urban than any of the 5 lands inside the park, a vision that is indeed no less intriguing. The final designs were worked out at a series of brainstorming sessions at Walt Disney Imagineering in Glendale, California, during a gathering of some of the world's most respected architects. Wing Chow, the chief corporate architect of Imagineering, recalls one of those meetings that took place in early 1988. Architects Robert Stern, Frank Gehry, Stanley Tingerman, and Michael Rotundi, as well as some of the critics and major journalists of architecture, arrived at Imagineering. We showed them the drawings of the overall site plan and worked on them until late into the night. A second work session took place in architect Robert Stern's New York offices the following Easter weekend. We had brought together a team of 5 architects, Wing Chow continued, who were soon humorously dubbed the Gang of 5: Robert Stern, Frank Gehry, Stanley Tigerman, Michael Graves, and Robert Venturi. It was on that Easter Sunday they came up with a revised site plan for the resort hotels. We had questioned ourselves beforehand, Wing continued. What sort of theme would we adopt? Historical? Modern? Fanciful? We had finally decided that the theme would be Americana, which we thought would be the best way to set ourselves apart from the surrounding European architecture. Next, we studied the places that Europeans most enjoyed visiting when they traveled to the United States: New York City, the New England area, the Southwest, various national parks, and the Wild West. This research data gave us the design directions for the hotel architecture. We then invited some of the best architects in the world to a design competition for the hotels and the nighttime entertainment center that would become Disney Village. We only had 3 weeks left to carry out this competition. At the end of 3 weeks, we spent 4 days reviewing the design works with Michael Eisner. Each architect had an hour and a half to make his presentation and discuss the concepts. Some ideas obviously did not make the cut, including a transparent hotel concept by Jean Nouvel, a hotel in the form of an aircraft carrier by Hans Hollein, a Fantasia hotel by Robert Venturi, as well as additional concepts by Bernard Schumi and Rem Koolhaas. Even hotels that were agreed upon changed design drastically over the course of the project, as you can see from an early Jim Michelson concept of the Disneyland Hotel. The need to cover the ticketing and entry area of Euro Disneyland facilitated the creation of the Disneyland Hotel as we knew it, and its place as the first hotel directly connected to a Disney theme park. Rather than trying to sell an obscenely expensive themed cover for guests, Imagineer Eddie Sato had Nina Ray Vaughn sketch a concept where suites were placed on the upper level of the covered area. Management loved the idea, so it quickly became a 2-story hotel. The passion for the project grew, as did its size, until it was a multi-story resort with 496 rooms at the park's entrance.
The first elevations of that hotel, I actually have the drawings of it. The original elevations of that hotel as a multi-story building.
Yeah.
Because Tony and I agreed that scale is everything. So we'd have to make the windows appear to look smaller. The thing would have to have forced perspective, kind of like the castle in reverse. Mm-hmm. We really wanted to pull those tricks out if, in fact, the company wanted to go that way. So that's how Imagineering was so involved in it. And then Dana Aiken, who became an Imagineer, Disney Development. He became kind of the main architect for that hotel. And we worked together. I mean, everyone collaborated because it was between 2 worlds, but I was sort of responsible for the ticketing complex underneath and helped drive the design, although the hotel was involved too.
The Disneyland Hotel was originally intended to be painted white, remembered John Hench, a longtime veteran of Walt Disney Imagineering. But white and black call to mind winter and difficult times, while people subconsciously associate warm colors like pink with summer, abundance, and wealth. So I gave the hotel a pink facade and a red roof that could be seen from a distance. I wanted guests to exclaim, "There it is, that's it, we're here." Famously, legendary Disney executive Dick Nunis hated the color, but he didn't get his way. 2 special elements were added to the hotel to top it all off and mellow the atmosphere. As a contrast to the serious feeling of the architecture, which of course was inspired by the Hotel del Coronado in San Diego, and of course the recently constructed Disney's Grand Floridian Beach Resort at Walt Disney World, they decided to put a gigantic clock featuring a huge Mickey Mouse on the facade. It serves as a big welcoming smile that lends the hotel true Disney warmth. This very Disney-like universe extends to the inside of the hotel as well. Quote, "The rooms contain a few gags," said Tony Baxter. Hippopotamuses wearing tutus in Fantasia can be found around the bathtubs. Snow White decorates the frame of the mirrors. Sleeping Beauty Castle perches on the bed headboards, and Tinkerbell is poised above the television, just as when she brings to life the American television show, The Wonderful World of Disney. These are the subtle details that prove Imagineers were on the job. Dining venues in the hotel originally included the California Grill, a haute cuisine restaurant run by Chef Philippe Ginoletti, Inventions, a buffet-style character dining restaurant inspired by the many inventions of Jules Verne and Leonardo da Vinci, and Café Fantasia, a piano bar themed to Disney's Fantasia. The bar served cocktails, coffee, and light dining options throughout the day. There was also a shop called Gallery Mickey. Michael Graves was given the assignment to design an American-themed hotel for the site on the northern edge of Lake Disney. It can be said that this is the most interesting but also the most challenging site of the Disneyland Paris Resort area. It is rather small compared to the sites of Sequoia Lodge and the Newport Bay Club, and is located directly next to the entertainment center and close to the railroad station. These aspects of the site limited the design options and themes that could be used for a hotel. Graves designed a hotel based on the American urban experience. What theme would fit better for a rather small site that is located next to a nighttime entertainment center and as well a major railroad station than that of New York? Additionally, a hotel on this site needed to be tall in order to accommodate the requested number of about 600 rooms and suites, as well as a convention center and a health club with swimming pool and tennis grounds. Just like the buildings of American cities soar into the sky because space is scarce, Graves Hotel would become the tallest of all Disneyland Paris hotels. Themed environments only work if the themes that are used are well known, and New York is the first city that often comes to mind when many think about their trip to the United States. Michael Graves said that Hotel New York was like a city in itself. His design was intended to capture the richness and character of New York City through diverse building types, places, scales, and experiences. But Graves is also the designer of most of the hotel's furniture and light fixtures, as well as wall coverings and carpets. In early promotional pictures, one can even see him with vases and decorative accessories that he designed. Hotel New York consisted of 3 characteristic wings. There is the formal Gramercy Park wing, which recalls the small-scale residential architecture of New York City's elegant Gramercy Park neighborhood. It embraces a formal garden with a sculpted boxwood plant shaped like a big apple. Playful details like this are typical of Michael Graves, whose work was never too serious. The main building was called Midtown. It housed the lobby, as well as many guest rooms and suites. The Midtown wing is centered on the axis of the lake and rises 8 floors high. It basically is one slab, but has been designed to look like 5 individual structures. They mimic iconic Manhattan buildings. For example, the central structure bears resemblance to Rockefeller Center. In fact, in the original concept, these were actually more diverse, these building tops, and more detailed to actually look like the tops of certain skyscrapers, but eventually that was scaled back in the design. Finally, there is a brownstone wing. It's angled to take advantage of the views of Central Park and the lake. Beyond the brownstone wing, there's a hotel convention center, and as we enter the hotel from the parking lot, you'll notice a long, curved grand arcade that connects all parts of the complex. As you leave the porte cochere behind, you enter the impressive lobby. Graves used marble and rich colors to suggest the elegance and urban vitality of Manhattan. Due to several playful elements, the rather dark space doesn't feel intimidating at all, though. Over the main entrance was an illuminated clock which featured the silhouette of the Empire State Building. To the left is the registration desk with a fun backdrop of red apples. To the right was the beautiful New York City bar with an inviting marquee dotted with popcorn lighting, recalling Times Square. On the floor, you'll see giant apple carved from marble. The contrast epitomized Hotel New York, a playful icon carved out of a classical material. The view is then drawn to the outside through 3 enormous triangular windows. The central hallway of the hotel that connects the main building with Gramercy Park and the brownstone wings crosses the lobby. On both ends of the hallways were elevator lobbies. These lobbies are very successful spaces as they combine classic proportions with touches from popular culture to create that Michael Graves feeling. The floor of these lobbies was decorated with the logo of the New York Yankees in the east and the New York Mets in the west. From the Yankees lobby, we could access the informal Parkside Diner and the upscale Manhattan restaurant. The Parkside Diner recalls the casual atmosphere of American diners of the 20s and 30s. There is Formica furniture and a lot of gleaming chrome. The shape of the space is that of an actual diner cart. At both ends of the diner, there were beautifully painted murals of all American food. The much more formal Manhattan restaurant was located at the end of the brownstone wing and offered views of the lake. The carpet with its whimsical leaves is, of course, a Graves creation, as are the elegant velvet armchairs. The decor and artwork in the hallways, rooms, and public spaces added to the overall charm of Hotel New York. You'll find photographs by Andreas Feiniger, who captured the atmosphere of Manhattan in the 20s and 40s like no one else. There are also works by Edward Hopper, whose muted palettes seem to have inspired the colors chosen for the hotel. Outside, the three different wings of the hotel create a formidable public space, which was anchored by a reflecting pool that actually became an ice skating rink in colder months. Again, Graves balanced the overall formal design of this space with its neatly arranged trees and flower beds and two beautiful pavilions with something fun, a giant map of Manhattan emblazoned into the reflecting pool. A final playful element hides where the plaza meets the lake. Graves installed 7 water fountains in the shape of Dumbo the flying elephant. Unfortunately, they're dysfunctional today, but they are still there. For me, French architect Antoine Grumbach explained, nature was the thing that brought the United States and France closer together. Now in the United States, nature is embodied in the huge scale of the national parks. So I decided to design lodges made from natural materials such as stone, wood, copper, and lots of trees. The design was accepted. In December, Antoine was asked to provide a sketch and model of his concept for a presentation on January 24th, which happened to be his birthday. When I arrived in Los Angeles, the crate with the model had been punctured and my suitcases were lost. At 2 a.m., I managed to find a suit for the presentation on the following day, and the presentation went off surprisingly well. In fact, the decision was made just 1 hour after the meeting. They had given it the final go-ahead, which was astounding to me. Sequoia Lodge pays homage to Frank Lloyd Wright, the prairie-style houses, and the craftsman-style architecture of the Green brothers. To give the building a more tolerable scale, the architect created several lodges, which lightened it up and surrounded the lodges with sequoias from British Columbia. During a vacation in Montana, the architect recalls, I had visited a wooden shack in which a hot spring was located. The idea for the hotel pool, as it can be seen today, came from there. Lastly, the small Temple of Love to the right of the entrance, just above the pond, is a special touch. It's my signature and my personal good luck charm. I always incorporate one into my projects. The main lodge faces across Lake Disney towards the Disney Village and is home to many of the 1,011 guest rooms, as well as the 2 restaurants and a hotel bar. The restaurants are the Hunter's Grill and Beaver Creek Tavern, while the lobby bar is Redwood Bar and Lounge. There's also a quaint shop called Northwest Passage. Behind the main lodge are 6 smaller lodges, 5 of which contain the remainder of the rooms, while the 6th lodge contains the hotel swimming pool and leisure facilities. Surrounding the hotel are thousands of trees, which were imported from west coast of the United States and Canada, along with hundreds of sequoias. The setting for the Newport Bay Club is important, explained Wing Chow. It's at one end of the lake and the hotel is immense. After you exit the A4 highway, it's the first thing you see. We were having a hard time finding the proper architectural theme for this site. Architect Robert Stern had just completed the Yacht and Beach Club hotels for Walt Disney World in Florida. We loved these hotels so much that we asked him to come up with a similar idea for Paris, and thus the Newport Bay Club was born. Our inspiration for the Newport Bay Club came from the pleasure hotels of the late 19th century, said Robert Stern. Such hotels were gigantic and sort of brought to mind the structure and self-sufficiency of cruise ships. The shingle-style architecture is used on a very large scale here, and the hotel contains 1,098 rooms. Nevertheless, I was not intimidated by the building's size because the wings helped me to break up the massive aspect. The huge porches, by being both large and welcoming, also help solve the size problem. The white paint, the general shape of the rooftops, and the huge pillars are some of the various elements that contribute to the creation of this pleasant contrast. In addition, we included rocking chairs to emphasize the warmth of hospitality. As for the A-frame roof, it lends a very human quality to the building, despite its size. Lastly, the lighthouse and its connection to the hotel, in terms of perspective, also tones down the massive size aspect. Its name was derived from the town of Newport, Rhode Island. Restaurants feature seafood, and the hotel itself is built in a crescent shape around one extreme, or the bay of Lake Disney, which itself features a small lighthouse. It is the largest hotel on all of property, and at the time of opening held more rooms than any other hotel in all of Western Europe. Restaurants include Cape Cod and the Yacht Club. Guests can do some shopping at the Bay Boutique or grab a drink at two bars, the Fisherman's Wharf or the Captain's Quarters. Robert Stern was the only one of the 5 architects chosen to work on the project who oversaw not one, but 2 hotels. Hotel Cheyenne is situated on the banks of a river, naturally named the Rio Grande, that separates it from Hotel Santa Fe, said Stern. I wanted to represent the legendary West that French people marvel at so much, the West of films like High Noon starring Gary Cooper and Grace Kelly. So we designed it like an actual movie set. We even thought about including huge projectors to emphasize the guest's impression of being on a movie set. Aside from the main building, all the buildings are the same with the exception of the way they are painted. We organized them in such a manner as to give them some character. With the use of these 2 techniques, we were able to create an authentic town. Some of the entertaining details include the fresco in which Stern appears as a desperado, the suggestive name of the Red Garter Saloon, the sculptures in the lobby by famous American artist Remington, and finally, the sinister hanging tree outside. Eateries also included the Chuck Wagon Cafe, a buffet where some guests get to dine under the canopy of a wagon while inside. The facades that hide the hotel's 1,000 rooms feature the names of such Western institutions as Saloon, Jail, Billy the Kid, or Annie Oakley. Hotel Santa Fe was designed by Antoine Predock. Predock is a so-called site-specific architect. This means that his designs correspond with and evolve from the surroundings in which they are created. So working on a hotel for Euro Disney Resort presented him a huge challenge. The site was a white canvas, a clean slate. Nothing was there that he could relate to. It was an empty site for his imagination. Predock recalls, the notion of theming a building in France was dangerous. How literal could it be? How nostalgic should it be? Should it be there at all? I wanted to project a vision of the West that surrounds me every day, a site of imagination. I thought the project should be like a Wim Wenders movie, like Paris, Texas, rather than having the sweetness and nostalgia of Santa Fe. Hotel Santa Fe was designed to become a canvas for the imagination of the guests staying there as well. This collage nicely sums up the main ideas for the hotel. One can easily identify many elements of the final design: the yellow line, the UFO, the fauna, the cinema, the Adobe architecture, and more. Predock created this collage to present his concept to Mr. Michael Eisner. Eisner was immediately thrilled. In fact, the collage was so huge that they looked at it and discussed it on the lawn of Eisner's Malibu home. Predock's design provided for a Commons building, which is positioned under a drive-in movie screen featuring the portrait of Clint Eastwood's Man with No Name character from Sergio Leone's Dollars trilogy, 49 Adobe-style pueblos, and a children's playground as well. As there was no landscape that he could relate to, Predock had to create one. The pueblos at the border of the Rio Grande River are much taller than the ones close to the Commons building, and due to this, can serve as a backdrop for the hotel. Predock organized the pueblos along 5 trails to spark the imagination of guests. Quote, the hotel has a series of trails as an organizational system. Each trail departs from the horizontal Commons building. The trail creates a matrix of events and a series of explorations that are particularly oriented towards children. The exploration takes place in an architecture that is specific to France in terms of wind protection and sunny exposure. The courtyards along the trails each create a microclimate. The Trail of Infinite Space portrays the expansiveness of the western terrain, mirroring the infinity of the sky above. The edge between them, the horizon, is even visible and unattainable. The trail is marked by a yellow line that begins in the hotel's front parking lot. It recalls the never-ending yellow line of the Great American Highway. The first element of the trail is the drive-in movie screen over the Commons building, which is centered on an actual yellow line. Originally, the screen was a tabula rasa, an empty plane onto which one could project its fantasies. But while Michael Eisner didn't like the idea of an empty screen, eventually that Clint Eastwood image was chosen. The yellow line leads on, the hotel seeming to converge around it, exaggerating the feeling of infinite space. At the end of the trail is a stainless steel disc. Resembling a UFO, the disc slices into the ground, interrupting the trail. The line marks the central axis of the hotel. The so-called Commons building is a strikingly simple and thereby authentic structure. This is exactly the kind of functional building one could find along the highways throughout the desert. No fuss, little decoration. The interior of the Commons building leans heavily on Route 66 and Native American designs. An attractive and often overlooked feature of the building is the observation deck. It's a rotunda which connects the restaurant and bar with the children's playground on the other side of the complex. The playground resembles ruins of an ancient Anasazi village and is the most beautiful playground at the entire resort. The trail of water, symbolized by fish, reminds us of the importance of water in the desert. Building 33, the tallest of the hotel's 49 adobe-style pueblos, is the highlight of the trail. The structure features a stunning water cascade. At one point, the water dives down a 100-foot course. When it reaches ground level, it is discharged in two directions. One channel is geometrically ordered. Almost like an irrigation channel, it traverses a series of courtyards interrupted by a triangular fish pond and the dance of sprinklers that can be found next to Building 30. The other channel is naturalistic. The water travels along a rocky stream bed until it reaches a geothermal event, rocks which split up the stream. The trail of water suggests geothermal activity, desert mirages, intense irrigation, mountain streams, and suburban lawn sprinklers. The Trail of Artifacts is about objects left behind in the desert. It hints at the remnants not only of ancient settlements and historical events, but also of modern habitation, industrial development, and tourism. The trail is symbolized by a snake that can be found next to Building 18. It is organized along a path of broken aquamarine tiles inspired by favorite turquoise inlay belt buckles of the architect. One artifact is a caged fake Saguro cactus, Saguro in bondage, that can be found between buildings 10 and 18. Also along the trail is a collection of rusting cars. The architect found them in parts of North 4th Street in Albuquerque, a 1932 Plymouth, a 1946 Chevy pickup, and a 1957 Ford Fairlane. All cars were packed into containers, shipped to Houston, and then to France, where they were embedded into a courtyard formerly located between Building 12 and 15, suggesting the erosion and deterioration of the desert. Crashing into the top of a building at the top of the trail is a fiberglass meteorite. These icons of the desert are just as interesting and ubiquitous as the adobe ruins. The Trail of Monument Valley, also called the Trail of Monuments, refers to spectacular geologic formations astride an endless plain. The pueblos along this trail contain dislodged fragments of buildings, some axially rotated, for example on top of Building 46. Here, Prodog was influenced by the reassembled landscapes of the Roadrunner and Crazy Cat cartoons. I wanted to include something of the way those cartoons used impossibly balancing rock to signify the existence of a fantasy realm. A neon Roadrunner can be found at the beginning of the trail. Finally, there is a Trail of Legends, symbolized by a white buffalo. The trail pays tribute to the legends derived from the act of taming both people and environments in the Southwest, and the larger-than-life characters who carried out that doctrine. The trail begins with a volcano that can be found next to Building 58, and 4 archetypal Western buildings, 55, 56, 57, and 58, all containing guest rooms. A gold metallic block suggests the gold rush. A silver metallic block, coins or a bank. A raw concrete block represents a jail, and a red block, a bordello. A black and white building, number 50, is deformed, set at an angle. It is a dissonant piece that recalls the black hat, white hat myths of the West, the tension between good and evil. Hotel Santa Fe has many individual stories to tell. These stories are not often easy to understand, but they're all beautiful and meaningful in a very special way. Disney's Davy Crockett Ranch is a campground at the Disneyland Paris Resort, which consists of 595 cabins in a quiet wooded area located outside the perimeters of the main resort. The ranch is about a 15-minute drive from the theme parks. Cabins include a TV, double bed, a bunk bed, and convertible sofa bed, similar to Disney's Fort Wilderness Resort and Campground at the Walt Disney World Resort in Florida. The cabins are for self-catering stays, and each cabin has private parking and a barbecue area. The one-bedroom cabins include a lounge with a convertible sofa, a separate bedroom with one double bed, and a set of bunk beds. Bunk beds are not suitable for persons more than 70 kilograms, or approximately 11 stone. The upper bed is not suitable for children under age 6. All cabins have a bathroom with a bath and shower head, self-catering facilities, telephone, television with international channels, and a radio. The kitchen has a refrigerator, a microwave, a hob, a crockery, and utensils, as well as a kettle, a dishwasher, and a washing-up kit. The beds are already made on your arrival, and towels are provided. 2-bedroom cabins are also available. The cabins are divided over a number of so-called trails. There's Moccasin Trail, Wagon Wheel Trail, Timber Trail, Bobcat, Big Bear, Cherokee, Tomahawk, and Coyote. Each trail has its own chalet where breakfast can be picked up in the morning. Also on site is Crockett's Tavern, a restaurant, the Blue Springs Pool, the Alamo Trading Post store, the saloon, a tennis court, Davy's Farm, the amphitheater, Lucky Raccoon, which is a video arcade, Bowie's Bike Barn, jogging track, and a treetop trail adventure. The very first employees of Euro Disney were housed in the then Camp Davy Crockett. The ranch was operational by September of 1991, before the other hotels. Crockett's Tavern was the first restaurant to open in all of the resort on February 2, 1992. Of course, Disney's Davy Crockett Ranch would officially open with the rest of Euro Disney in April of '92. As you can tell, there were a plethora of innovative and interesting places to stay, all designed by the most creative architectural minds of the time. However, these glistening, beautiful resort hotels would turn out to be one of the major factors in the disastrous early history of Euro Disney. Well, time sure flies. If you're enjoying this jump from time to time with us, please hit the like button and subscribe for more great content. If you'd like to support this show and others, you can join the WDWNT Interglobe Society at patreon.com/WDWNT. To pick up the perfect gear for your next visit to any Disney park in the world, head to the Carousel of Products at carouselofproducts.com. Of course, thank you to all these great sources that make timekeeping possible. We'll see you real soon right here on Timekeeping.